It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So what's going to happen now? Here it is. GOP calls to invoke 25th Amendment after special counsel cast doubt on Biden's mental acuity. This from Breitbart. Following special counsel Robert Hur's report, which included stunning revelations of the deterioration of President Joe Biden's mental state, Republican officials are calling to invoke the 25th Amendment. They state that, quote, if there was ever a time to do so, now would be it, and insist that if the president is not competent to stand trial, then he certainly is not competent to lead the free world. You know, the problem with that is that's something that Americans relate to. And, you know, if he's not competent to stand trial, because that's the message being sent out by the special counsel.
Sure.
He is not competent to stand trial. The next question, how do you argue that point? If you're a Democrat, how do you argue that point?
That's the greatest finding of this report. I mean, basically, if you think about it. He's not competent. No jury would convict a guy who has cognitive issues.
Right.
If he's not competent to stand trial, he's not competent to be president. And one of your key witnesses would be the special prosecutor, Hur.
While highlighting evidence of America's oldest ever president willfully mishandling, that's in quotes, willfully mishandling classified documents, special counsel Hur's report details Biden's significant cognitive decline, perhaps more politically damning than his handling of classified materials. The report released Thursday concludes that prosecution is unlikely due to the challenges of proving willful intent beyond a reasonable doubt and Biden's sympathetic public image. In response, Republican members are urging the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, which addresses presidential succession and disability procedures, or face impeachment while questioning how Democrats in good conscience can tell Americans he is mentally competent enough to continue being commander-in-chief. For the safety of our nation, Joe Biden must resign, declared Congresswoman Mary Miller. He could not remember basic facts about his life. He is not competent to remain as commander-in-chief, and every day that he remains, he puts America at risk. If he won't resign, the Congress must invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, you had Mike Lee, just reading different tweets. If there were ever a time to invoke the 25th Amendment, wouldn't that time be now? It just goes through Mike Johnson, my joint statement with Steve Scalise and Representative Stefanik regarding the special counsel report. The special counsel's finding that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified documents. Hang on here. Classified materials and engaged in practices that presents risks to national security is deeply disturbing. Not only does it demonstrate the president's recklessness, but exposes a two-tier system of justice that is indicting one president with politically motivated charges while carrying water for the other amid similar allegations. Among the most disturbing parts of this report is the special counsel's justification for not recommending charges, namely that the president's memory had such significant limitations, that's in quotes, that he could not convince a jury that the president had a mental state of willfulness that a serious felony requires. A man too incapable of being held accountable for mishandling classified information is certainly unfit for the Oval Office, which means there's 2 points here. Number one, the Republicans aren't going to stop. Number two, the press, you saw it yesterday, the screaming at the president to answer their questions.
Right.
And then the White House, which now, to prove that the president does not have cognitive problems will have him out there even more.
Right. Yeah.
Or the pressure will be there for him to actually do a serious interview, not a fluff interview.
Right.
And will he do it? And then you combine it now because, okay, the Super Bowl is coming up. This is why the president didn't want to do the Super Bowl interview.
Right.
Republicans have a huge club right now, and I believe they are going to use it because I think there's two things here. The thought process that he wasn't going to run anyway. Now you've just upped the ante on that one that he's not going to run. And so it's like, do you want the chaos? You know, do you want them? Do you want the Democrats to choose the timing of it? Or do you want to be under control of it to make it a complete chaos situation with the Democratic Party? Because the first reaction will be, you know, for example, and Trump, did Trump say last night, I didn't see where he said he has to resign or he needs to be out of office. Now, Republicans are saying that, but my point is, if Trump says that, they can't do what Trump says.
Yeah, well.
And so there's going to, I think the fight will be all the Republicans say you need to resign. The immediate reaction will be to defend the president and have him out there where he'll continue to make more cognitive mistakes as he did last night.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because was that the first step? The president last night coming out to defend himself, which didn't go well. Right?
No, it didn't go well at all.
But was he sent out there to say what he said in response to the special prosecutor's report because he knew the GOP was going to pounce and start bringing up the 25th Amendment? That it was like, okay, you got to get out in front of this the best you can. It was horrible. This is the problem they have. He has to be the face of it. Otherwise, it looks like you're protecting a guy that has the condition that is outlined in part by the special prosecutor's report. There is no win here. You put him out there, and we saw it last night. He dementia, and then he displays signs of dementia.
Yeah.
While he's trying to defend himself against the allegations of having dementia
and the
or
other
cognitive issues.
The other problem he had, I mean, the NBC poll that came out earlier this week, and it just showed on the issues how he's getting killed by Trump on all the major issues.
Right.
Again, Gavin Newsom was not telling the truth last week when he said, oh, no, he leads on all the issues. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolute gaslighting there. But the worst number he has, the worst, is on his age and cognitive ability. That's the worst polling numbers that Biden had before any of this happens. And so the Democrats might have said, oh, no, he's fine. Nobody buys it. They believe what the Republicans are telling them. And now from the opposite side, in the president's own administration, what they're saying is he is not competent to stand trial. They don't have to fill in the next blank because the next blank will be, well, if he's not competent to stand trial, how is he competent to be president of the United States? Justify that one, Democrats, is what Republicans will say, because the initial reaction is going to be to defend the president.
Right.
And then all the stories will come out, as we already read. It was from thehill.com, I believe, that mapped it out and talked about the Democrat operatives that are absolutely panicking over this. So you're going to have the Republicans pounding. Probably in the next few weeks or the next month, you're going to have Robert Hur before the House testifying, and the Democrats will be saying, no, he's perfectly fine, and he'll be out there not being perfectly fine.
This really is reminiscent of the Comey thing with Hillary. Well, she broke the law and demonstrated how she broke the law. No reasonable prosecutor, and this is no reasonable jury. But the special prosecutor here is acknowledging that he broke the law.
Yes.
But then is saying he's not competent to, implying he wouldn't be competent to stand trial. With the way he. So look at the layers of this. He broke the law. He's not competent to stand trial.
I'm paraphrasing, but that was sort of Josh Hawley's tweet last night. So this is a scenario. He willfully broke the law, committed felonies, but he's not competent to stand trial.
Right.
But he's competent enough to be
president.
But he's competent enough to be president. He goes, that's a tough sell.
well, and that's it. I think you may have read that and off the air earlier when you're kind of but look at those, stand back and look at those layers from the special prosecutor's report. Yeah, he broke the law. He's not competent to stand trial, though. I'm sorry, what? You're talking about a sitting president. I don't know where it goes today. I really don't. I don't know where it goes today. Do you have Johnson coming out, Speaker Johnson coming out today? And addressing this? I don't know why he wouldn't. I mean, and what do they do on Capitol Hill?
Well, you have two choices as Republicans, and it seems like just by the things that came out last night would say he's unfit to be president, that there's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised, because you've got to make the decision as Republicans. Do we control the timeline here, or do the Democrats control the timeline? Do we make this complete and total chaos across the board? You take it because you also look at this with the possible 9-0 defeat in the Supreme Court. That, hey, they're going after Trump, and this guy's completely and totally unfit. The entire thing is to have a massive, we talk about music, remember the wall of sound?
Right.
What you want is a wall of complete chaos and defeats for the Democrats one after another.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to get that whenever possible. So the Republicans can't be quiet on this. So they've got to pound it every day, probably presuming they're going to get the reaction from the president that I'm fine. And so he's going to be out there showing you he's not fine, because that's the thing you want to do. As a Republican, talking the politics of this, you want to drive the administration to get the president out there talking all the time, taking questions about everything, because they're trying to prove it's the only game they have. If they hide him again and hide him more, it makes it even worse. It's made it worse already because the polling numbers couldn't be as the polling numbers are, 76%?
Yeah.
Of the public believes, his age is a huge problem,
right? Which
is his cognitive abilities. And now the special counsel's thrown this in, and the mainstream media is covering it.
Because it's tangible, but it's also an outline. It's tangible for those that don't want him to be the nominee on the left. They've got something in their hand now. Oh, well, look, it's clear. And it's outlined. He broke the law, Josh Hawley, which is perfect. He broke the law, but he's not competent to stand trial, and he's still the president? And you want him to continue to be the president.
And not a great sell.
The majority of the Democrats don't want him to be the nominee. That is still the case. And so there's your political will building right now for this thing to be. And by the way, it's, I don't know, handful of people, he's not going to be the nominee. They've been saying it as if it's a fact. Well, either they knew what was going to come out in the special prosecutor's report, or they're just throwing it out there in case it did happen. We said, well, he's the nominee as it stands right now, and that's still the case. But this report changes so much.
Well, the other problem is and because they had initially said it was going to be the pictures, and the pictures are going to be part of it, because the pictures also show, because Biden's out there blaming his staff. Well, did his staff open up those files where they look like you could see the files and the circles of the files, that the boxes were open?
Right. Yeah.
And he's trying to blame his staff, and it's just like, oh, man. And even CNN, they were like, my God, he's blaming his staff. This is on him.
Right.
The first thing Turley came out and said, well, anybody who knows about this case knows it's been going on 40 years.
Right.
This was going on when he was in the Senate.
When he was in the Senate.
Because when he was in the Senate, this was all going on. This wasn't his staff.
Right.
From the Senate to move it to his house, that was him.
That was him. Oof.
And it's just like, so the lies across the board and just everything, it is just the biggest cluster you could possibly imagine.
And I don't know how you clean this up.
No, neither do I.
Some piles of garbage just need to be burned. Basically, you have to resign to the fact that it's not going to go anywhere and it's just going to burn down.
Well,
I mean, I don't know how you fix this.
Democrats are discussing that right now. The Democrats are discussing how do we get rid of them and how can we do it?
Yep. Because you got to fix this as a party.
Right, because you got to go one direction or the other.
Right. It doesn't move on. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And the direction of saying, oh, he's fine. There's nothing wrong. He is the most aware person in the room.
You can't do that. Karine Jean-Pierre will try that today, maybe, but you can't do that as a party anymore. It's over.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Yes, Sunday is the Super Bowl. This year, more than likely, a fair number of parties and gatherings across the country with the foods we love.
You know, chicken wings and some nachos, chips and salsa, all of those good foods.
Agriculture Department food safety expert Meredith Carruthers says some of us party hosts, though, may end up committing some food safety infractions with a penalty of causing people to get sick. What's the most common football party fumble?
So I'd say the biggest mistake is definitely leaving foods out for way too long.
Now, in football, players get the 2-minute warning, but Meredith says for food, it's the 2-hour warning. If you leave perishable items like wings and salsas out at room temperature longer than 2 hours, bacteria in or on them can multiply to dangerous levels super quickly. So during the Super Bowl,
paying attention to the timing that food is out is super important.
Keep hot foods hot, cold foods cold, or replace foods that have been out at room temperature for 2 hours. This is Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm just scanning the headlines just to see any indication, what's going to happen today. Because the one thing, and you and I were having this discussion about how it seems like a lot of stories are breaking at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, right. That they are in the evening.
A lot of stories are breaking in the evening here.
Yeah, right.
And it's like yesterday, this just broke as I'm getting ready to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, my mind starts working because when I read this here about what the special counsel has said, and I'm like, my God, somebody's going to call for the 25th Amendment. I can't go to sleep. That's going to happen here in the next couple of hours. Well, they've got to respond. They got to send the president out. I can't go to sleep. I got to say, you got to go to sleep. You got to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can't have news. All news must break. Just like the Supreme Court. I wake up this morning and the Supreme Court stuff's going on. I can have my coffee and listen and get used to it. No news from now on breaks after 2 o'clock.
Exactly. Right.
And then I'll be happy.
It's just insane because it is nonstop right now. It is nonstop. And it's been that way for a long, long time. But when it happens against your sleep schedule, it's especially challenging. I don't know what they do today. The party has to make a decision. The Democratic Party has to make a decision, and they need to make that decision now because this is not propaganda that you're working against. This is an official finding while the special prosecutor isn't a doctor.
No, you got a great point there, though. But
it's a finding by their special prosecutor on this, and it really does damage to the current president. You gotta do something.
Bringing on the chaos. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, the interesting thing is, by the way, download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you want.
And thank you.
But here's the thing, because this changes everything. It's not whether Biden should not run. It's whether he should be president right now.
Yeah. That's the great, most immediate concern, which a lot of us have had in the background. On the right, a lot of us have had it because we suspected cognitive issues. But now, again, something tangible from the special prosecutor. And again, to be clear, the prosecutor, is not a doctor, as far as I know, doesn't also hold a medical degree. But it doesn't matter. It was the line of questioning as an investigator. And what he pointed out in his experience, that is something now that is an official report for the Attorney General's office, is something that changes pretty much everything, because you can't go back. Biden last night, he's lying, he's making it up. If her intentionally put false things in the report, you could prosecute, and her knows that. So there is no reason to lie and make those claims that he had memory issues as a part of that report. So Biden, of course, is going to say, no, it's not true. Well, we've all seen it. And now you and I have been asking, how far does it go? And why are we letting this madness go on? It's really stupid. We need to address it as a nation officially.
But I think what changes all of this, because I started thinking about this during the break and just all the different scenarios, because it has been that he shouldn't be running again.
Right. Yeah.
Well, now it's he shouldn't be president. That if he can't, forget about waiting till January, the Republicans are now saying he's unfit to serve now.
Because if he's unfit,
the
he's
25th,
unfit.
Which means, because if you're looking at the fact that, okay, odds are now, you're the Republican Party, you're the leadership of the Republican Party, and you're saying to yourself, even Ronna McDaniel, even though she's on her way out, but if you're the Trump campaign, if you're the Republican Party, you say to yourself, wait a minute. Number one, we need to control this. We need to control, and we can help to manipulate the panic in the Democratic Party. And we can do that by just pounding on the things that he has said, force the White House to put Biden out more, where he's going to make more mistakes, use those as evidence, call the special counsel here in the next month to testify before Congress on it. You've got the White House press corps. You can tell they don't want Biden to be there. They don't want Biden. And you know that. And the whole point is, who controls this process? The Republicans may be thinking. And if I'm the Republicans, I say this. Well, you want Biden out now because you want Harris as the president. You know what? Nobody wants her as president, but the Republicans are saying she's president because then Newsom can't run, because the normal succession would be she would become the president of the United States.
All right.
You're going to run somebody against Newsom against her if she's the president?
Yeah.
All hypothetical.
Right.
Just discussing things, that's all.
Interesting analysis here at Forbes.com. And the headline, Republicans call for Biden's removal by 25th Amendment after her report. What it is and why that won't happen. And they go through and, well, at least they don't start with why it matters at Forbes.com. But here's the why it won't happen. Well, similar calls were made for the 25th Amendment to be invoked when Trump was in office, but those calls came from within. Those calls came from within the former president's administration. All right, so but what was the basis of those calls? Hey, this guy's crazy. Hey, he's unstable. We have to step back and look at how you can look at somebody and go, oh, that person is crazy. Man, that person is crazy.
No,
that person is insane. And it doesn't mean that they're technically insane. When you see what's going on with Biden, this is a mental condition, not a matter of just how he operates. It is a physical and mental condition and cognitive disability that we all know of, not an assessment of, oh, that guy thinks weird.
Yeah, because that's where it really came from with
Trump.
With Trump. But the public doesn't buy it. The polls show the public doesn't buy that argument.
Exactly.
So you can try that argument, but the problem is, well, first off, I want to get to this and we'll get to the other problem, but I'm looking here at Mediaite.com. Now, we know that the Democrats don't want him to run.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they can live in their own bubble because they believe that he can win. They also, maybe they believe, even though they don't want Kamala Harris, she can win. But if they don't, if he's got to sit there in office from now until, Election Day and be pounded on every single day and have what's going to happen over the next month, because I'm sure the House is going to bring her in, and they're going to be talking about the 25th Amendment. This guy is not, and you just keep repeating, the special counsel has made it clear he's not competent to stand trial.
Yep.
Is somebody who is not competent to stand trial competent to be president of the United States now? Because your goal is, and you may not succeed, but your goal is to get Kamala Harris in there and then have somebody run against her as president, which would just, now you're saying that the woman black president cannot be president. She's not good enough. Bring in the white male from California.
Right.
That's when the blank hits the fan between the left and the far left of the Democratic Party. That's what you would hope for. But when you look at, for example, just looking at Mediaite now, where does the press stand? Well, look at this Mediaite. Mediaite is, they look at, just like Newsbusters looks at liberal bias, they look for any type of right-wing bias.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to Mediaite to see how they're covering this today. Vice President, here's first headline. Vice President Harris became squarely an issue in this election today. GOP strategists signal what's next after Biden's special counsel report. Then the next one, this is hilarious. Rachel Maddow suggests Biden isn't too old for the presidency because he rides a bike. I mean, they actually had that in. They actually had, that's the second story in there, which which when I read it to you, I burst out laughing. I go, well, that gets a reaction of laughter from everybody. It's like, probably isn't just the greatest point. And then this is Mediaite now. Mexico. Jeffrey Toobin says Biden's latest blunder is the only thing anyone's ever going to remember from the press conference because he said Mexico instead of Egypt. Well, that's the entire point.
Exactly, yeah.
Then they have here, watch, Biden confuses Mexico and Egypt in stunning gaffe during presser meant to alleviate fears about his cognitive function. Wow. How in the hell dare he, defiant Biden, blast special counsel over claim he forgot when his son died? And then finally they had to get something to go after Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty weak. Fox Jesse Waters misidentifies governor's state while discussing Biden's diminished faculties.
Stop the presses.
I know. It's like, oh my gosh.
I'm going to go to Mediaite to look for all the typos today and screenshot them because that's the point. Is that we're not talking about a simple misstatement, misspeaking. You can't make the comparison.
And then right here, Jake Tapper skeptical of ex-Biden staffer's explanation for her poor memory. To not know what year you're vice president? These are all the headlines.
Yeah.
Remember, this is a website that exclusively looks for what they believe are right-wing propaganda and right-wing lies and right-wing journalism hypocrisy.
They would love to be newsbusters, but they're not.
Well, they couldn't be yesterday.
There's no way they can be. Newsbusters being the conservative group that looks at liberal media and their coverage and bias.
And then even before it, Karine Jean-Pierre, this is before everything happened, everything hit the fan. Karine Jean-Pierre struggles to defend Biden's latest gaffe when confronted by reporters. I don't even know what that one was because they don't say it there. There's so many of them, as we pointed out yesterday, even in the speech where he went out. Again, he went out to do that short speech and answer just a few questions, and he got burned.
Oh, it was horrible.
Got burned big time.
And that's their problem, is that he's got to be the face of it. You can't hide him now at all. And if he doesn't step down, if he's still president during debate season, but won't go on a debate stage, Gary, because we don't believe he will. He can't. Gary, after this, your conundrum is, well, we can't hide him, but there's no way we can put him on a debate stage because you can't take notes with you onto that stage. This is beyond horrible. And the party, honestly, they may be in their political war room right now, the Democratic Party, or maybe it started yesterday, or maybe it started sooner when they got word of what Her's report was going to show. Here's a question. I got another last minute. I'll leave you into the weekend with this conspiracy theory. Bill Clinton and Gavin Newsom seen together hanging out in Mexico a few weeks ago. So Bill Clinton get wind of what Her's report was going to show and get with Newsom and, hey, listen, Hillary Newsom 24. We think maybe that's going to work. I don't think Hillary's ever going to come back and run again, but I can't tell you what they're going to do.
Well,
Newsom is the guy, if you were to ask me if something were going to change and they were going to usher someone in, it would be Newsom. But I can't discount anything right now. I don't know.
No, you can't. I mean, and there was Hillary out there going after Tucker Carlson.
Yes. And she's been very vocal recently. Did they understand, is this, to bring the whole conspiracy theory together? Because why did Her, in his report, why did Prosecutor Her have to go through and point out that no reasonable jury, he's not competent. That's the statement he's making, and he knows that, and it's not necessary.
No, well, unless they believe it was.
If that was their only play?
That was
okay.
Well, that was the other. I'm not discounting what you're saying. I'm saying there
broke
could be the other
law. So the only thing we have is
the other possibility that this really isn't convincing as we try to explain how Trump's case is different than the other.
Right.
So we've got to come up with, because he willfully had the documents, he willfully shared them. This happened for 40 years. It wasn't his staff because he took it from from his Senate office years ago.
As president
when he was there. It wasn't when he was president. We really can't defend it. So we need, that will lead us in the right direction. That Trump is always worse, but then we'll say Biden is incompetent to stand trial anyway, and he's an old, nice man with a fading memory, and no jury will convict him, so why bother do it?
But you couldn't come up with something else? I mean, something else?
Know.
It just seems like a huge red arrow from Prosecutor Her going, hey, this guy's not competent. I don't know. Did the Clintons know this was going to be the report? And are they ushering in a Hillary Newsom 24 campaign?
Check to see if the Clinton Foundation is back raising money. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I did see where Karl Rove said that's not going to be Michelle Obama. She hates politics, and he pointed out how she didn't want Obama to run for state office.
Okay.
When he was a state senator.
Yeah.
Didn't want him to run for that. Didn't want him to run for any office.
Right.
And so it's no, sorry guys, she's not going to be the one. But Hillary was out there yesterday attacking Tucker.
We know why.
Why?
I figured it out during the break.
Why?
She's going after Tucker Carlson because she's a demon alien from another planet. We all know that. We've known that, and he has exposed her.
So the new movie is going to be She Lives.
It really is. I don't know what's going to happen today, but it's going to be a very interesting day and weekend.
Instead of They Live.
She lives. It's her time. Uh-huh.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.